There's already indication that the incoming Trump administration is going to be cracking down on terrorism and extremism. However, on the state and local level, it's unclear whether there will be any changes. We've had multiple attempts and terrorist attacks through the past 10 years since ISIS became an independent terrorist organization. But so far, the investigations focused on so-called lone wolf attack, ignoring factors that contribute to radicalization and extremism. In this case, too, despite the seeming connections between the two incidents in New Orleans and Las Vegas, the FBI is treating the New Orleans incident as a lone wolf attack, and there seems to be no indication that there is a concerted effort to investigate, at least by the media, um, the factors that could have contributed to the first attackers' radicalization. It's too early to tell what happened in the second case, but it seems to me that there are concerns about treating ideology that contributes to terrorism as a major factor. I think there is a concern that fighting ideological warfare, information warfare, could insult or offend people, could result in bigotry or bias. So this topic is left almost untouched. Instead, usually investigations focus on factors such as financial problems, psychological problems, or access to weapons. Well, in the past, there's been investigations into ISIS cells, and they have been successfully dismantled. But there are factors that have contributed to rise in extremism. They include border security problems. In this case, there's been problems concerning radicalization in mosques, and there's also been concern about the involvement of state actors, including Iran, Russia, and others who may not necessarily be directly involved, but who benefit from such attacks and who may contribute to the radicalization process in various ways. And we have seen the terrorist attacks abroad have also increased with the backing of state actors. All of these issues are politically inconvenient. They're complicated to investigate, and they disrupt the standard narratives about the nature of terrorism. I think there needs to be an overhaul to this approach within the security agencies to send a clear message that the investigations would be thorough, that no stone would be left unturned, and no issue too controversial to discuss publicly. I think there's been a false view of some of the extremist ideological factors due to the fact that some of the people who share these beliefs have actually been consultants for security agencies such as the FBI and also the police in various areas of the United States. And these factors too need to be examined just as much as the actual incidents of terrorism. Well, that all depends. I think the Trump administration at its top level is, at least in theory, committed to fighting terrorism. Whether they have specialists who understand the nature of terrorism remains to be seen. In order to really be serious about it, they need to be fighting ideology as much as incidents of terrorist groups. Dismantling cells is not enough, and preventing funding and weapons exchanges is not sufficient if the recruitment process is ongoing. So ideological warfare, information warfare are important factors, and the Trump administration in that case should understand that that involves having both committed security agencies who understand the nature of the threat and understanding that organizations such as the Muslim Brotherhood as well as state actors contribute to radicalization process abroad and contribute to the penetration of communities and the media and the environmental factors that influence the nature of wars and conflicts and and the general anti-Western outlook. They should be working with other governments to ensure that cooperation remains at peak and that it's not merely another case of lip service by alleged allies in counterterrorism fight. They should be holding allies accountable just as much as openly adversarial countries, because we have seen all too often that blind eye is turned towards funding of extremism by countries that are supposed to be working with us to counter this sort of radicalization. All too often, U.S. partnered with the very countries that are funding and sponsoring terrorism on counter-terrorist operations, and I think it's time to realize that all of these actors and non-state actors are working in concert against the United States and its interests, that there is no longer a clear distinction or separation, and it's not, and to eradicate this phenomenon, we should look beyond simple dismantlement of states. I'm not I'm not convinced about that, because to enforce these paradigms, you need a team that is dedicated and knowledgeable to this issue. But so far, many of the nominees for security positions have mixed messaging at best. Many of them have expressed anti-war sentiments, or they've vocally supported the state actors who are known for backing terrorist groups, or cautioned against U.S. involvement in any long-term international campaigns, including counter-extremism and counter-terrorism and investigations. It's not clear whether all of these people will have the background and the knowledge to understand that these issues will not stop at U.S. borders, and that simply calling for mass deportations of migrants will not necessarily stop all the international and domestic terrorist attacks or the proliferation of extremist ideology. Experience and the history of dedication to understanding the underlying causes and problems is as important as the rhetoric on the subject. Of course, we are hoping that with the new administration, they will radically change course from what we have seen under the Biden administration. But so far, there's no clear plan on putting an end to these radicalized campaigns. After all, it was the Trump administration which pushed for NATO forces withdrawal from Afghanistan, which Biden then consequently followed up on. And now we're seeing the Taliban is partnering with Al Qaeda in proliferating camps all over the country. So far, the Taliban and Al Qaeda have not openly attacked the US, but it could be just a matter of time. Likewise, the Trump administration pushed for US withdrawal of its forces from Syria, leading to a rise in terrorist attacks on SDF forces, which had partnered with the US forces against terrorism in Syria. So far, Trump has not announced his intentions, but it is entirely possible that if he follows the same pattern as previously, that could once again become a serious problem.